autographs. And by the time I walked over to him, we locked eyes. He pulled himself up out of his chair so he could shake my hand and give me a hug. Not he'd be down sitting in a chair, a wheelchair where he was in. And by the time I got there, I was crying like a baby. Just couldn't help myself. I felt like an old fool. But he touched my heart so many times. And it was an easy transition for me to go to JCP after buying out Cowboy. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of heat. Because a lot of people there looked at me as the guilty party of making the sale happen. And then the other thing is there were people there that they knew that I was going to come to work. So, anyway, it's just good. It was just wonderful. I'm sorry I diverted there, but
no, listen, I know Bob Caudle is important to you, and that's what we like to hear. Let's talk about the first match here. It's the Great Muta and Doug Gilbert, 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Meltzer would say Gilbert was substituting for the junk food dog, who simply no-showed without calling in, and it appears really is history this time out. The best guess is JFD would have been asked to do the same job in the same amount of time and didn't come. It was a lot better off that he didn't, because Gilbert played his role well and that he kept up with Muto, and they were able to make sure the awesome spots looked good. They did, and Muto wouldn't have even tried them with JFD. Eddie Gilbert came out midway through the match and did a nice spot where it did appear Muto would do the moonsault. Doug moved and Muto did the flip, landing on his feet, and they quickly went to another spot. Basically a squash, but great while it lasted. It just beams through the words here. Meltzer has fallen in love with the Great Muta, but you had too. I mean, he was the next hot thing, right?
Yeah. I fell in love with him a lot because he was fresh. He was new. He had a moveset that was unique. He had a great look. And like I told you, when he'd come to the office to pick up his check, when he was living in Atlanta, probably in Howard Johnson's out there by the airport where a lot of guys lived, that's what my guess. The ladies would, the buzz would come in the room because they thought he was just sexy as hell and a good looking guy. And he was always friendly and nice and polite and very well mannered, classy guy. But I thought he's another guy that if he had stolen the title from Flair, or if Flair was still a heel and Kenji was a babyface, their chemistry, their matches could have been sensational. It would give Rick a new opponent, a new moveset to deal with and factor into his stuff. So I was a big fan of Muta. Unfortunately, my old friend, the J.W.R. dog, and remember the junk food dog, Meltzer calls him, but the junk food dog was me.
Right.
That was Ernie Ladd's nickname for me. And that was probably because of all the hitting the machines before, while we were playing dominoes all night on Tuesdays. But that J.W.R. just really shit in the bed on that one, and it just wasn't good, man. It was, I felt sorry for him. It was all related to substance abuse. He wasn't the dog. His mind was going. He had drug problems. Everybody loved the guy. You couldn't help but not love Sylvester Ritter, for God's sakes.
Right.
Magnetic smile, glowing eyes, just a good dude. But man, it passed him by. He lost his edge. And let me tell you what one of the reasons that was. When he worked in Mid-South, he meaning the dog, he had Ernie Ladd as the booker, and he had Cowboy as the owner. Strong leadership. Strong alpha males that knew what they were talking about and had no issues looking any talents eye to eye and telling them what was on their mind. But he didn't have that after he left Mid-South. It was the Wild West and WWF. He had that first African-American action figure, and he made money, and he's same old deal, man. He thought the checks would never end, and they did. And what also ended was, his workout regimen. Because I've heard Ernie and Cowboy talk about he'd get a little heavy, and they get on his ass, and they get him back in the gym, and he'd be lifting again and doing, he getting back in game shape. And then of course, he was a changed man whenever he left Mid-South with no notice and went to WWF. He got a big break. He made a lot of money, but at the end of the day, he had shit to show for it. If he had stayed in Mid-South, he'd have made a lot more money or he'd have kept a lot more money because Ernie and Bill would have been babysitting him. He didn't have that. He had very little discipline and self-control. But I still love the guy. I still miss him this very day. And that's why he worked so diligently when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame in WWE, that we worked really diligently to find his daughter so she could be there. And then, of course, then the other thing we did, I think I did this with Ed Kaufman, who was the legal counsel at the time, and Vince approved it. She got his royalties. And because there was a bunch of royalties in I guess you'd say, escrow,
right?
Because we didn't know who to send the checks to, so we did some due diligence there. I felt proud to do that as a favor to the old guy and taking care of his daughter best we could. So, but it's sad to see where he fell. It just where he fell. It's a good lesson for talents. If people watch TV and only see that version of the Junkyard Dog, you'll never get it.
Right.
You'll never get how big he was. And when you're asked who's the most popular athlete in Louisiana, Pete Maravich, Archie Manning, or Junkyard Dog, guess who won that race? JYD. People loved him. Every color, every creed, everybody loved JYD. So judge him on his work anyway. On that, he never was a great worker, but he had the most amazing natural charisma of any babyface, and the fact that he was an African-American babyface pushed to the very, very top. Because heretofore, most of the promoters, all being white, would let an African-American get to the semi-main or be a tag champion. J.W.R. was the guy. And I think if he had been more reliable, he would have been, when he first, not too long after he got to WWF, there's a good chance he would have had a run at, if not succeeding, in becoming the champion. But you got Hulk Hogan there, and you ain't going to change that. So bottom line is that it was a sad night. He just no-showed. No phone calls, no nothing. And you knew that he was in deep water, and he couldn't swim.
One of the big topics on our show here has become the almighty push. Well, if you're ready to push your penis to the moon, go to BlueChew.com. That's blue like the color blue. We're going to get your dick on the gas sign. That's right. We're talking about PEDs for your penis. It's the world's first chewable with the same active ingredients as both Viagra and Cialis. And here's the deal. A BlueChew.com affiliated physician will work with you to find the right dose and active ingredient that best suits you. But because it's a chewable, it can work faster. And the chewables from Blue Chew can be taken on a full or an empty stomach. But because the physician consult is free, it's also cheaper than the other two. It only takes a few minutes for you to connect with a BlueChew.com affiliated physician, and if you qualify, you get prescribed online very quickly. There's no in-person doctor's visit. There's no awkward conversation. There's no waiting in line at a pharmacy, and it ships directly to your door in discreet packaging. The chewables from BlueChew.com are prescribed online by a doctor and made in the USA. Blue Chew is going to give you confidence in bed every time. You and your partner will love it, so chew it and do it. And here's a great deal for you guys. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first order for free when you use promo code JR. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, and the promo code is JR. Get your push for your penis. Go to BlueChew.com. Let's talk about the next match. It's Butch Reed and Ranger Ross. Shoulder block off the top at 6 minutes and 59 seconds. Meltzer gave it a quarter star. He says there's no heat for the match, although Teddy Long got a nice pop when he came out to ringside with a notebook. They did nothing for the first 6 minutes, and the most interest in the crowd was mugging for the crowd shots for TV. The last minute was fine, and at least the match didn't go too long. I like both of these guys. Ranger Ross had a gimmick that I guess could have worked once upon a time, and Butch Reed, I think, is criminally underrated.
Me too.
But for whatever reason, this one was just sort of there.
Yeah, well, no story, no backstory, no build-up. And it's the obligatory Caucasian booking committee putting two black guys together.
Right.
It's bad. It's not, Butch Reed, he's criminally underrated. Criminally. I remember the conversation I had with him, with Cowboy and Ernie when Dog walked. I said, we got our answer right here. but they were both hell bent, and Ernie talked Cowboy into, we got to replace Dog with another African American.
Right.
Bad move. With a new African American. It's not the African American. It's just you can't replace the dog with another dog. Go a different direction. And, we tried all these guys, Brickhouse Brown, George Wells, God, I don't know, a litany of other African American athletes, good talents. It's like, Vince told me a story one time about replacing Snuka with Sifi Afi. Sifi Afi. Some old school fans will remember him. He had a good run in the Pacific Northwest at one time. He's a Polynesian kid, but he was Snuka. He's Snuka Light. So fans don't want to pay for Snuka Light, JYD Light. Either give me Snuka or give me Dog or give me something else, but don't give me weak imitations of that.
Right.
And that's where we messed up there, because Butch Reed could have stepped right into JYD's shoes, because the fans damn sure believed in him. They knew he was a tough son of a bitch, and he looked like $1 million. $1 million. So I'm with you, Conrad. That's a good description. Grossly underrated.
Next up, Dick Murdoch and Bob Orton in a bull rope match. It gets half a star. They only get 4 minutes and 54 seconds. Meltzer would say they worked hard on getting this feud over on TV, but there was no heat for the first 3 minutes until Murdoch took off his boot and started hitting Orton with it. I'm not a great believer in juice because it's been proven you don't need it. But if you're doing a gimmick like a bull rope match with a cowbell, you either need the juice or you just really can't do the gimmick. The finish saw Murdoch hog tie Orton and pin him. After the match, Orton and Gary Hart double teamed and hung Murdoch over the ropes. There wasn't even any heat as they're hanging Murdoch.
No, nobody gave a shit.
These are two characters who just don't resonate with the WCW audience in '89. Fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say, but we could have done a better job in getting Murdoch momentum before this whole debacle, and getting Bob Orton momentum. So then both guys got some momentum. You kind of set their foundation in WCW, and then you shoot your angle. When they both got some momentum, they both have on a streak. They had not 50-50 booking. They're beating people. They're building that momentum that's so much needed, but we didn't do that either. So they didn't have a fair shake in the match coming in, but you could tell, at least I thought, maybe I'm wrong, just by watching it back, even though they were working hard, I've seen both guys do a lot more and do a lot better. I don't want to say they were going through the motions, because that would not be fair. But if they weren't going through the motions, they were damn sure on the cusp, because they weren't happy with their position. They weren't happy with their money. And because I've seen Murdoch more than I have seen Bobby Orton in person. And I know Murdoch could be great.
Yeah.
But he could also be Shemp of the Three Stooges. Not even a Mo or Curly, Shemp, because he liked that shit. And so that match could have not been booked, and it's 4 minutes and 54 seconds. So let's do something else. And we didn't do those guys any favor with a poor ass booking with no build up, and then in a gimmick match that needed blood and didn't have any. What are we thinking here?
Let's talk a little bit about the next match. It's dynamic dudes, Shane Douglas and Johnny Ace, getting an upset win over the Samoan SWAT team in 11 minutes and 2 seconds. It gets 2 3/4 stars. Meltzer was a super fan of the Samoan SWAT team. I thought the match was okay, but I'll be honest, I didn't really like either gimmick, so to speak. I was never a huge fan of the SSTs, and the dynamic dudes were just a monumental miss, I think, for everybody. I had a hard time getting into this one, but apparently I was a little biased because Meltzer liked it. 2 3/4. What'd you think?
I thought it was probably as good an outing that the dynamic dudes could have had. I thought that it showed the professionalism of the Samoan SWAT team to put them over. But I think pretty much everybody saw that it was going to be an uphill battle getting the dudes over. Shane Douglas, I always thought Shane Douglas had a great upside. He got screwed around in WWF as Dean Douglas. He wasn't a good cultural fit, apparently. Some of his peers did not want to be around him, like him.